Well, today we are talking about suffering. Aren't you glad you came? The science of mind tells us that we have learned all we can through suffering. Now, if this is true, why is there still suffering? Suffering can feel like prison, can't it? Feels like we've lost our freedom when we're in the midst of suffering and pain. Wouldn't it be nice to have one of these cards? Remember that? Get out of jail free? That's the name of my message this morning is get out of jail free card. And if you remember playing Monopoly, sometimes you would land on the one that said go directly to jail, do not pass go, do not collect $200. And if you had one of these, you just got right out of there. You didn't have to stay. So today we're going to explore suffering, how to end it, if not forever, at least more quickly. Get out of jail faster. How about that? Get out of jail faster. So when you think of suffering, do you think of your suffering or do you think of someone else's suffering? Is it physical, mental, or is it emotional? Physical suffering might be sickness of the body. Mental suffering might be grief, depression, fear, anger. We have emotional suffering, perhaps a breakup or a betrayal in a relationship. We have suffering in life events, maybe a broken down car, maybe we've lost a job. We all suffer from these things, have suffered from these things, and may suffer from these things in the future. How do we deal with them when they come? The science of mind reminds us that we never deny that people are sick, or that they suffer and have pain, or that they are poor or limited in experience. What we affirm is that there is an absolute at the center of everything, that God is perfect, that spiritually we are perfect, and that there is an immutable law governing everything. So we're not denying the experience of suffering in the world. We are affirming that God is right there in the midst of it. When we're suffering, when we're going through painful situations, God is right there with us because God is everywhere present. And the law governs all that is. I have been rereading a book lately. It's written by Pema Chodron, Buddhist nun, When Things Fall Apart. When Things Fall Apart. In it, she says, the first noble truth of the Buddha is that suffering is inevitable as long as we believe that things last, that they don't disintegrate, that they can be counted on to satisfy our hunger for security. As part of our experience on planet Earth, we're pretty convinced that things are permanent, aren't we? Life is it's going to look the same when I walk out as it did when I walked in. Things are permanent. We believe in that permanency, and we become attached to it, and we get lulled into a false sense of security, believing that everything we have, everything that we see is permanent, when in reality it's all temporary. It's all temporary. Anybody been to the Grand Canyon? That's happened over time, and every year it changes a little bit. The river changes a little bit. The sides of the walls change a little bit. We change every day. We have new cells every day, right? New things every day. So nothing really is permanent, yet we have this sense of permanency and security that we want in our lives. It's big for me, big for anybody else. Sense of security, knowing everything's going to be okay, right? Ernest Holmes is the author of The Science of Mind that we teach from, and he says no form is permanent. There is an eternal play of life upon itself. We are an expression of original mind and can call temporary forms into being. All of our affairs are thoughts cast upon the screen of experience as temporary events. And that brought to mind a movie a movie, and clip after clip after clip, scene after scene after scene, it keeps progressing, it keeps changing in every frame, right? And the same is true with our life, as what Ernest is saying here, is that our affairs are thoughts cast upon the screen of experience as temporary events. So if we consider our teaching that everything is created first in mind, first in thought, is all suffering mental? Have you ever felt like the rug just got pulled out from under your life? That you had no place to land? Feet dangling firmly in midair? We've probably all been there at some point, some level of that. Something doesn't go our way and it feels like chaos. Now what? I don't know which way to go. Or perhaps we respond from our habitual patterns of victimhood, fear, blame. Why does this always happen to me? I don't know what to do. I'm frozen. It's your fault. It's your fault this happened. Pema Chodron says that many of us may use these situations to either wake ourselves up or put ourselves to sleep. What's your go-to response when life gets messy? What's your go-to response when chaos arrives in your life? Things are upside down, topsy-turvy. Do you rise up and walk through? Or do you retreat into something to escape it, to numb it, to avoid it? We sometimes refer to these chaotic times in our lives as the messy middle. The messy middle. Those times when what we knew no longer works and we don't know yet what to do. So we're in the messy middle. It's also a time of creation, right? That's the time of creation. It's really an exciting time if we can clear our minds. It's a time of creating something new. This diagram that I found, I thought was a great example of what the messy middle feels like. We come in, everything's going along fine in life, and then whoop, it's like Charlie Brown and Lucy, right? The ball gets pulled out from under us and we hit the ground. And there we are in the chaos, in the messy middle. And we're trying everything and we're reaching and we're grabbing and we're trying and we're twisting and we don't know and we're asking everybody and oh my gosh, and we just continue to get more confused and more tangled up. The messy middle. Now, we eventually come out the other side. The thing I would change on this diagram is I would tip that arrow up just a little bit. Because on the other side of the messy middle, we've grown. We've expanded through whatever we've created in there. Whatever we've created. Now, we talk a lot here about the spiritual journey, right? We're all in this together. We're all on the path together. We're all finding our way. And it's really about learning to relax in that messy middle. About finding our true self, our true essence in the midst of all that. Of finding that center place. Have you ever noticed when you panic, you're not very effective? And when we get in the messy middle, we can panic, right? We engage that old fight or flight, and we just get more tangled. It's like a kitten getting into a ball of yarn and just spinning and getting all tangled up in it. So panicking is not a good place for us. It's not a good look. We don't want to go there. Panicking is not good. Sometimes we reach a crossroads in life, though, don't we? Sometimes we get options. Sometimes they're great options. I don't know which way to go. They're both so good. I want them both. Sometimes they're not good. Or it's like, I don't know either one of those, but I got to make a decision here. And sometimes the universe sends us curveballs. Didn't see that coming. Sometimes they're dodgeballs. Ouch. But it's really true that we grow through adversity. Like the plants, the wind breaks the plant just a little bit so that the cells regenerate themselves stronger to hold the bigger plant as it continues to grow taller. And the same is true for us. As we get jostled around in life, we grow stronger. We expand. It's not always comfortable, but it is part of the process. And this is where eventually we discover that life is not only our teacher, but our friend. It's the old Einstein's thing. Do we live in a friendly universe? Life is teacher and friend. It sends us what it knows we can handle, or at least grow through, if we choose to. Sometimes we choose to, sometimes we choose not to. Nah, not for me. And suffering, then, is the result of the wrong use of the law. Making poor choices or taking misguided actions are the ways that we can bring suffering on ourselves. Lord knows I've done that. I've had some doozies in my life. I hope you have not, but I personally have. Most of them I've been able to grow through eventually, kicking and screaming. Some I still suffer with. Some I still suffer. And I can assure you those are mental suffering because I do it myself in my mind. I questioned my decision. Why did I do that? What was I thinking? Why did I think that was a great idea? And then I went through and took action on it. Yeah. Example. 2015. I chose to sell the perfect for me house in McCormick Ranch that I had. I had just replaced the air conditionings in the roof. It was just perfect. It had everything I needed. And I decided to sell and downsize. Now, if you remember 2015, that was about the time the market started going, ooh. Well, yesterday, just to prepare for this talk on suffering, I looked up today's value. Yeah, good old reminder there. But what is all this mental remembering and remorse and thinking? What does it do for me? Absolutely nothing other than give me great sermon fodder, right? Will it change anything? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So why do I indulge in it still? Because it's become habitual. Remember a couple weeks ago when we were talking about habits, and it's the habitual thought pattern that repeats itself with monotonous regularity? It's up to us to break that pattern, to stop that thinking that brings us suffering. For me to sit and just wring my hands and go, oh my gosh, look what I did. It's horrible. And, I missed an opportunity and this and that and the other. It does no good. I love my house right now. It's been remodeled. It's delightful. It's comfortable. So letting go of that, learning to step out of that repetitious thinking, that regret of the past, the fear of the future. We step out of that. And that's a big milestone on our spiritual journey when we get there and we can finally begin to choose to let go of that. To not embrace it and look up the value of the house. You just stop doing that. We learn to relax and appreciate what we have in the present moment and to hold it lightly. To hold it lightly and enjoy it in every moment that it's there, recognizing not in a morbid way that it's temporary, but in a way of growth and expansion, that it's always changing. Staying static is not a good thing. If we want anything different than what it is right now, we have to change. Now, some of us may say, hey, life is really good right now. I don't want anything to change. And yet there's that divine urge within us that will begin to tickle us. And the next thing you know, you'll want to change. You'll want something different. You'll want to see a different horizon. Something. So learning to redirect our thinking. We say change our thinking around here a lot. And as I was preparing this, the word redirect came up because changing our thinking sounds like hard work. Redirecting our thought is just turning a different direction, redirecting that thought to something different. So we redirect and break those habitual patterns. And we must practice that skill. We must practice it. We're likely to continue to experience moments, days, perhaps weeks of suffering as we continue this path of life that we're all on. That's the bad news, right? Figuring out how to end it more quickly is a matter of preparation. It's a matter of practice. All those habitual thought patterns that we've created over time happened over time. So to heal those, we need to practice to get out of those, practice thinking the new thought. And we do this in the good days. And that's where I think we sometimes make our mistake, is that we wait until things are bad and go, oh, God, help me. Rather than doing our work every day in the good times and building the muscles and preparing. You know, if we go to the gym and we work out and we prepare and we get healthy, then if we get a cold or something, it's maybe not so bad because we've got a healthy body that's dealing with it. But if we're sick and run down and our immune system is shot because we haven't been taking care of ourselves and then we get a cold, it can be a lot more difficult, right? And the same is true here. We can do these spiritual practices in preparation in advance of any adversity or any suffering or anything like that, and then we can be our own first responders. We are our own first responders. We get in touch with the place within us we call center, our essence, our true self, that divine spark of God that each of us was born with, the thing that gives us, makes us life. You know, it's not our brains, it's not our hearts, it's all of us, and it's that divine essence within us. And when we can get in touch with that on a regular daily basis, when we can go to that place that's never been hurt or harmed, that place that has no fear, that place that just simply knows that it is divine, that it is spirit, and we get in touch with that on a regular basis, we build a relationship, we know it, and we can return to it at any time. I remember in practitioner training, we played games of somebody would be telling a story, and all of a sudden, the teacher would say, pray for him about such and such. I mean, just interrupt the story. And it was go to center, find that center place within you immediately and go to prayer. Being able to know that place within us in such a way that we can find it always. That we can find it always. And our preparation and our daily practice, our daily centering exercises will get us there. So that when life storms come at us, when the chaos starts, life can swirl around us. The wind can blow and howl like it did last night with the thunder overhead and the lightning illuminating the darkness. And we can stand in that center knowing everything's okay, or it will be soon. Everything's okay, or it will be soon. We've been learning a lot of spiritual tools this year as we've been building our spiritual foundation. And a couple of them really help in this area. There's a centering practice we'll talk about in a little bit later, and your meditation practice. Your meditation practice, when we are still and listening for God, that is when we get in touch with our own essence. And building that every day, building that muscle every day, is what prepares us for the storms that may come. Or who knows, it may prevent the storms from coming. As I said, we're the first responders, and we respond from that place that knows. We respond from that center, from that God spot that knows there is nothing wrong. God doesn't think there's anything wrong ever, right? It's all good. So we can stand in that spiritual perfection in that moment. The eye of the storm. We can be that, knowing all is well. There is a place that we all come to on our spiritual journey. It's a place within us that just knows. It's a sense of calm. It's a sense of peace. It's the place that knows that God is, I am, we are. God and I are one. And when we know that, there's a peacefulness that comes over us that we just take into any environment, be it chaos, creation, joy, happiness, sadness, whatever it is. We carry it with us always. So when it comes to that get out of jail free card, much like Dorothy's ruby red slippers, we already have ours. Each and every one of us already has our own get out of jail free card. We just need to remember to pull them out of our heart the next time we're standing in the messy middle. So if you would like to study more of these life-affirming principles, I invite you to sign up for Mindful Monday. It's a newsletter that comes out on Monday mornings that is a recap of today's talk and the practice we're going to go through. And you can use the QR code, send an email, or sign up in the lobby to get on that list. If you have signed up on that list and you're not getting the email, please resend me an email so that we can update that. I have gotten a few bounces. Email bounce backs, and it's because I wasn't able to clearly get the email address down. So if you could do that, I will get you on the list for sure. Your spiritual practice is centering. Surprise. So our process is find a quiet place where you can sit for just a few minutes and be uninterrupted. Just be still. Close your eyes and bring your attention to your breath and imagine breathing into your heart. That sounds unusual. We can't breathe into our hearts, right? The process is to have that feeling of dropping from our head, from our intelligence, into our heart, into love, and just breathing into that and feeling our hearts widen and expand to life. In the breath, find sanctuary of in your own heart where you can rest and feel safe. There's a sense of relaxation that begins to happen as we go deeper and deeper within ourselves. And then use your imagination to visualize the most beautiful place you can and rest there. Stay in this place until you feel safe and grounded, just allowing yourself to be immersed and surrounded in that. Breathe more deeply into pure spirit that lies at the center of you. Intend to relate to others from this centered place. Imagine if all of your reactions, all of your interactions with everyone came from that place of center. All of us, all of everybody in Scottsdale, everybody in Arizona, everybody in the world. Imagine the world we would live in if we all approached each other from that namaste place. We will close this morning with a quote from Ernest Holmes, who says, "The world has learned all it should through suffering. We do not say that we have learned all we shall ever shall through suffering. So we affirm, I do not have to suffer in order to evolve." We give ourselves permission. We do not have to suffer in order to evolve. So it is. So it's your turn. If you would like to comment, have questions on suffering or anything you'd like to share. Thank you, Joe. Daniel.
Thank you. So there seems to be a paradox in science of mind about acknowledging something and facing it, and then when doing treatment, sometimes turning away from that, denying the existence of such a thing. Could you talk about that?
Certainly. Thank you. Um, so turning away versus the quote that we used today, which was the one about, Joe will find it faster than me. We never deny that people are sick or that they're suffering, have pain, or have that experience. So we're not denying the experience is happening. Yes, I have my compassion. I know that this is happening in your life, and I know that it's a very difficult time and traumatic time, whatever's happening. That's our compassion that comes forward. In our treatment work, we are treating for the changed condition. So we turn away from the condition that we are experiencing and turn towards what we prefer instead. So the prayer treatment is affirming what is being treated for, what we affirm instead. So if there is a condition that is an illness, our compassion, we acknowledge that that's what's happening, and we are there with them, walking that path. Our prayer treatment is for the healing. So we're not denying the condition exists. We're just affirming the truth of the situation, and that's really what Hernes quote is saying. We affirm that we're not denying that they're sick. They're not denying they have that experience. We're affirming that God is right where that experience is. Thank you, Daniel. The truth. The truth. Yeah, and that is part of this also, is finding center and finding truth. And that was Jesus' message, the truth that sets us free. And that is knowing that the oneness of God that we are, knowing that place of center. Anybody else? All right. Shall we pray? So as we go within, finding God at the very center of our being, breathing into that space, we unite right there and rest, allowing our shoulders to drop, allowing our bodies to relax, allowing our minds to be quiet, and just feeling the presence. Recognizing that that is the place of the divine, and it is the place within us where God lives, moves, and has its being as us, as these individualized and unique expressions of it. We are one. We are whole, perfect, and complete spiritual beings. No matter the storms of life that may be swirling around us, no matter the chaos that may be manifesting in our lives, no matter the messy middle we may be experiencing, God is right here present, in, through, and as all of it. For there is no spot where God is not. And when we know that, we affirm that, and we live from that truth, we can stand in that storm. We can be the first responders of our lives, taking care of ourselves in any moment, any challenge, every joy, every creation, every expansion. It is a beautiful place from which to live, move, and have our being. And I know this is possible for each one of us, for it's who we are. As we open to receive it, as we open to experience the grace of God in, through, and as our lives, as we relax and breathe into our hearts, I know for anyone that has anything on their heart today, as they lift it into the consciousness of this prayer, that we join them in their prayer, knowing its complete and total manifestation right here, right now. No matter what the need may be, God is right there in the midst of all of it. It is with joy and thanksgiving that I release this prayer into the action and activity of law, knowing it is already made manifest in each and every one of our lives, the lives of the center, the lives of all on our planet, and our planet itself. We are blessed, pressed down to overflowing. And so it is.